Okay. Good morning, everyone. Uh, Welcome to this session on Ind AS 24 that deals with related party disclosures. We completed EPS in the last class. That was also a disclosure standard. Related party disclosures, Ind AS 24 is also a disclosure standard. Okay. It is drawn from IAS 24. Did we have a similar standard in the AS regime? We had a similar standard, AS 18, that dealt with related party disclosures. Okay. So now, what do we mean by related parties? We will discuss that because that is the bulk of our today's discussion. But the more important thing is, why do we need to give disclosure about related parties? Okay. That is the first thing. And how can it contribute towards making my financial statements more meaningful? Okay. So this standard is broadly divided into three categories. First one, who are related parties? Who are related parties? When I discuss who are related parties, we will also discuss who are not related parties. Who are not related parties. So this is the first part of our discussion today. Majority, out if I take 3 to 3.5 hours, more than 2 hours will be spent in identifying who are the related parties. The next one is what to disclose. What to disclose. What exactly is the nature of disclosure? Out of a 3 to 3.5 hour session, what to disclose will take about 15 to 20 minutes. That's it. Okay. And the third one is, are there any exemptions from disclosure? Exemptions from disclosure. So these are the three things that we will be discussing in today's Ind AS 24. All these things are there that will be discussed. Exemptions from disclosure may take about another 25 to 30 minutes. Okay? So these are the three broad categories where we will be dealing with today. So now all of you know that our financial statements, broadly comprise of core statements. Core statements meaning balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flows. Balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow statement. That means profit and loss means obviously P&L and other comprehensive income. So these are the core financial statements. Apart from this, you are also having additional statements like statement of changes in equity and notes to the financial statements. Okay, so these are a complete set of financial statements that will be presented to the reader of financial statements, to the persons who are interested in knowing about the way the entity has performed in a particular period. So where will the related party disclosures be given? Will it be given in the balance sheet? No. Will it be given in the P&L? No. Will it be given in the cash flow statement? No. It will be given in the notes to the financial statements. So this is where the disclosures will happen. Okay. So that is the first thing. Where will the disclosures happen? Second, why do I need to disclose related party transactions? Why the need to disclose related party transactions? Okay. Why is there a need to do so? See, in today's times, an entity need not necessarily operate by itself multiple businesses. If you look like business houses like Reliance or Tata's or L&T, all these entities, they have diversified into various sectors. Okay, you have them operating in the telecom sector, you have them in the digital sector, you have them in the garment sector, you could be having them in the infrastructure business, the IT business. All these are the places where these entities are by and large operating. Now, they cannot operate as one single entity. They cannot operate as one single entity. Why? Because of the diverse nature of the businesses. So what these entities do? Well, they incorporate subsidiaries, they enter into joint ventures, they make investment in associates, and through these mediums, they carry out their operations. Through these various entities, they carry out their operations. Now, when that is the scenario, obviously it can happen that there could be a transaction between each of these parties. There could be a transaction between each of these parties. And that is why related party becomes important. Related party is there everywhere. You look at company law, you will have related parties. You look at Income Tax Act, you will have related parties. You look at FEMA, you will have related parties. Basically, the whole legal structure on which we are there, each one of the acts has identified who is a related party. Why? Because by nature, related party transactions create suspicion. By nature, related party transactions, they give rise to a doubt in the reader of financial statements. Why do they give doubt to the reader of financial statements? It is because suppose there is a transaction of sale between related parties. Okay. The question that arises is, why is the sale made to a related party when there is an external market? Number one. Second point is, has the sale been made at normal selling price or has it been made at cost price? The party which is purchasing, for that the supplier also is related. So the reader of the purchaser's financial statements will ask, has the purchase been made at market price or has it been made at a price more than the market price? What are the possible implications behind entering into such related party transactions? If a sale has been made from one related party to another, what is the outstanding balance of the receivable related party? How many months is it outstanding? All these things are bound to create suspicion in the reader of financial statements, and therefore you will reduce that suspicion by making disclosure. So if I have to just highlight the need to disclose related party transactions, it is to promote transparency. Promote transparency in financial reporting. Promote transparency in financial reporting. Okay. So that is the main reason why you are having it. Sir, related party, does it mean that transactions have to happen at arm's length price or at normal price to the third party? Standard does not go into such judgmental issues. Standard does not go into such judgmental issues. Many of you would be studying income tax also. In income tax, there is international tax. So suppose there is a parent in India and a subsidiary abroad. Then when there is a transfer of services or goods between the parent and the foreign subsidiary, there is a requirement to ensure that such transfer happens at arm's length price. That arm's length price, the genesis of that word arm's length price is coming from Income Tax Act. It's not coming from Ind AS. Okay. So Ind AS does not require you to do the transactions at arm's length price. Ind AS does not penalize you if you do not do the transactions at arm's length price. Ind AS only tells whatever you do, जो कुछ भी आपने किया हो, please disclose that. Please disclose that. Okay. So what is important is disclosure of related party transactions, irrespective of whether it happens at arm's length price or not. अपने को कोई मतलब नहीं है. The Ind AS person will say, it does not really bother me whether it happens at ALP or not. My job is to give a disclosure, and therefore I will give a disclosure. And with that, it kind of concludes our our discussion on the introduction of this standard. So it is by and large a disclosure standard. We now move to the more important part of our discussion, which is Who are related parties? Who are related parties? So you are having the first thing is your reporting entity. You are having the reporting entity. Who is the reporting entity? The entity which is required to prepare its financial statements under Ind AS. So when I talk about who are related parties, this will be from the perspective of, from two perspectives or two lenses. The first lens is relationship with persons. The first leg is relationship with persons. Persons means what? Persons means individuals. Persons means individuals. Okay. You, me, all these are living beings. Okay. Persons, individuals. Okay. So we will discuss the first leg of our relationship in respect of related parties with persons. The next one is relationship with entities. Relationship with entities. Okay. They could be your subsidiaries, joint venture, associates, any other party, employee welfare trust. All these things will be covered in this part, in this section. Okay. So we are going to discuss under these two things. Out of these two, relationship with persons is fairly simple to understand. Relationship with entities is slightly complex, but what I'm going to do is we will refer the study module, and for each clause that is there, I will make you to draw charts. You remember the charts, it becomes easy to understand. You remember the charts and go to your examination, you will be fairly comfortable with the wordings that are there in the standard, Okay. So with this background, let us move on to the first part, that is relationship with persons. Relationship with persons. Okay. So now let us start our discussion. I would prefer if all of you can have the study module with you, because it brings about much needed clarity and understanding. Okay. So I will refer the study module because it's a theory standard. कुछ खास presentation जैसा नहीं है. So we shall refer the module, prepare charts and close the topic. Okay. There are no many calculations here. So calculator का कोई काम नहीं है. All you have to do is just be alert and attentive when we are doing the discussions. Okay. So now, relationship between the reporting entity and a person or persons. So this is what we are discussing now. What is the clause saying? What is the clause saying? A person, abhi ke liye you forget this clause member. Okay. A person is related to a reporting entity if that person has control or a joint control over the reporting entity. Okay. So simple thing. There is a person. This person should have control or he should have joint control. Over whom? Over the reporting entity. He should have control or joint control over the reporting entity. Okay, so this is the first part that he is saying. The next one is has significant influence over the reporting entity. So it's not necessary to have only control or joint control. You could also have a significant influence. Over the reporting entity. Or is a member of the key management personnel. Okay. So he is a KMP, key managerial personnel of the reporting entity. Okay. And we shall stop here to understand what each of these items specifically mean. So when I talk about control, those of you who have done consolidation will be able to appreciate it. Those of you who have not yet studied consolidation, Day after tomorrow onwards, you will be starting business combinations and consolidations. That time you will be in an ability to appreciate. But when I talk about control, if I have to talk in a crude manner, okay. Crude manner means what AS was telling. Crude manner meant that shareholding greater than 50%. Shareholding greater than 50%. But if I have to talk in a refined Ind AS manner, if I have to talk in the way Ind AS has defined control, this is present in Ind AS 110 consolidated financial statements. 110 defines what is the meaning of control. What is the meaning of control? Control means ability to direct relevant activities. Ability to direct relevant activities of the entity. Ability to direct relevant activities of the entity. Relevant activities means what? Your operating activities, sales, procurement, okay, payment of wages. All these are your relevant activities. These are directed by. When these are directed, you can say that there is a control. Okay, so ability to direct relevant activities plus exposure to variable returns. Plus exposure to variable returns from the entity. What do you mean by variable returns? Basically, that means your profit. Okay. So therefore, these two things, when they are there, it means that control exists over the organization. Normally, I admit that you can direct the relevant activities generally if your shareholding is more than 50%, but it is not mandatory that shareholding should be more than 50%. Take for example, any listed company, जहां पे the major shareholder holds, say for example, 45 to 48%. And when the major shareholder holds 45 to 48%, the remaining shareholdings are all distributed across the country. The remaining shareholdings are all distributed among various people throughout the country, such that each person does not hold more than 1% of the shares. So now, whenever a decision has to be taken, if the person holding 48% decides in favor, it is always going to be the case that the decision will be passed in favor of that person. Okay, the outcome that he has voted for, that outcome will take place. Why? Because the other shareholders are widely dispersed. They cannot vote, or they will not vote on this matter. Okay, so therefore, control is not just meaning shareholding being greater than 50%. What is important is it should have the ability to direct the relevant activities of the entity. So that is the first point. So when I talk about control, it means control that is enshrined in Ind AS 110. Okay, जो control वहां पे लिखा है, that is the exact definition that applies here. So it could have control, or it could have joint control, Okay. So when I talk about joint control, this is under Ind AS 111. What do you mean by joint control? Joint control means two or more parties control an arrangement. Two or more parties control an arrangement. This control could be in the form of joint operations, or it could be in the form of a joint venture. Okay, so what do you mean by joint control? It means, suppose you enter into a partnership with somebody. Okay, and when you enter into a partnership with somebody, both of you agree that both the parties have to decide in order for a particular resolution to be passed. Matlab, there is only unanimous power, there is no differential power. So therefore, everybody has a role to play in a particular decision. If even one party is not there for taking the decision, the decision cannot be taken. The resolution cannot be passed, and therefore control does not exist. So only one person is not needed to control. You need more than one person, such that each person is important for making a resolution. Each person is important for making a resolution. Okay, so that is the meaning of joint control. Two or more parties control an arrangement. You could have a joint control either by way of a joint operation. If I talk about joint operation, that is very much like the World Cup that was organized, where BCCI, Australia, all these come together for a small period of time, organize the World Cup, and then share the profits and move apart. So that is joint operations. Or you could have a joint venture where a separate company is formed. For example, you have Air Vistara, right? So Tata Sons Private Limited and Singapore Airlines, they joined hands, created a JV company called Tata SIA Airlines Private Limited, and they are running the Air Vistara carrier in that name. So they have a separate entity. How do you account for all that is a subject matter of something else, of some other standard, not this standard. But that is how you are having your joint control operations. Okay, so that is Ind AS 111. Then you could have either a control or a joint control or a significant influence. When I talk about significant influence, this is under Ind AS 28, I think. This is under Ind AS 28. Accounting for associates and or joint ventures. Associates and joint ventures. What does it tell? What does it tell? Significant influence means, again, in a crude manner, holding more than 20% stake. Holding more than 20% stake. That means what? The person who has invested in the company purchases more than 20% of the shareholding. So when he purchases more than 20% of the shareholding, it becomes a significant amount. But it is not as significant to take control of the board. But this fellow will definitely go and get a place to sit on the board of directors. He will get a place to sit on the board of directors. And when he sits on the board of directors, he can express his opinion. He can participate in the decision making. So, in substance, participation in decision making. Participation in decision making. This is what is going to happen. Okay, so that is for you Ind AS 28. So when a person has control, that is, he directs the relevant activities, or a joint control with somebody he has control, or exercises significant influence over a reporting entity, or he is a key managerial personnel. What do you mean by KMP? What do we mean by key managerial personnel? Any person who is directing or controlling the relevant activities of the organization. Okay. Any person who is directing or controlling the relevant activities of the entity. These persons, they have the authority as well as the responsibility for planning, directing, and controlling activities directly or indirectly, including any director. Okay. So the definition is there right here for you. What do you mean by KMP? Those persons having authority and responsibility for planning, directing, and controlling the activities of the entity. Okay, including any director, whether executive or otherwise, of that particular entity. So these are the meaning of key managerial personnel or key management personnel. So if I have to give you examples, it will be directors. It could be chief operation officers, chief financial officers, chief executive officers, chief technology officers. But is it limited to designations? Is it limited to designations? Answer is no. Answer is no. And therefore, when I talk about KMP, it could also mean any other person. Any other person. These designations are just illustrative. These designations are just what we call as illustrative. Okay, so these are what you mean by key managerial personnel. So if I have to summarize this point, you can note down this chart if you want. Person having control, joint control, significant influence, or KMP over a reporting entity. If these conditions are satisfied, then the person is related to the reporting entity. So if these conditions are satisfied, then the person is related to the reporting entity. These are related parties. Is it okay? Yes. Any doubt so far? Any doubts? So Sheena Jain has asked a question. Does control also mean two shareholdings jointly holding shares between 45 to 48%? It depends, Sheena. It depends on what is the nature. So when you say jointly holding, do you mean each share is held jointly by both of them? Or do you mean together they own more than 45 or 48% as the case may be? So if the first case is there, then yes, both of them, each share they are holding together. So therefore they become the right to carry on the, or what you can say, to take the decisions. But if they are two separate independent individuals, together they hold 48 to 50%, then you will have to look whether there is a shareholder agreement between both the shareholders. If they say that we will together take decisions on the relevant activities, then yes, it does appear to be joint control. It does appear to be joint control. Okay, so till now, is it clear? Till now, is it clear, everyone? Any doubts? Please answer. If you don't respond, in the future, it may start to get a little jargony. Okay. Okay. So please answer. Tell me if you have any doubts. If not, then we shall proceed further. No, sir, it's clear. So Srinidhi has confirmed, Sai Ram has confirmed. Okay. Now, let us explain this with the help of an example. So you will be fairly clear. You will be fairly clear in your understanding. So let us take, for example, whose example we can take? Sunil Mittal. Sunil Mittal. Okay. Sunil Mittal controls, for example, Bharti Airtel, or we can say that he is the key managerial personnel of Bharti Airtel. Now, Bharti Airtel has a subsidiary. Bharti Airtel has a subsidiary, Infratel, for example. Okay. I'm just making this example up. Okay. So, don't check it up with Google and all. I'm just making up these examples. Bharti Airtel has a subsidiary, Infratel. Now, be careful and answer this question. Be careful and answer this question. Sunil Mittal is a key managerial personnel. Basically, he is the CEO of Bharti Airtel. Okay. So therefore, is Sunil Mittal related to Bharti Airtel? Answer is yes. These are related parties. These are related parties. When I talk about Bharti, when I talk about Infratel now, when I talk about Infratel, now please think and answer. A director or a CEO of Bharti Airtel, will this director also be in a capacity to decide about the subsidiary. Bharti Airtel, Infratel is the subsidiary. So there is a control relationship here. Bharti Airtel controls Infratel. So now you tell me, can Sunil Mittal's decisions affect Infratel? जरा सोच कर बताना. Think and answer. Okay. I'll come to your answer. I'll come to your question, Sheena Jain. Okay. Give your answer. Can Sunil Mittal's decisions affect Infratel, which is the subsidiary of Bharti Airtel? Just think and answer. Can Sunil Mittal impose his decisions on the subsidiary? Bolo. Please answer. See, the way this chapter becomes interesting is if we interact. Okay. You can do the writing also later on, but as of now, please answer. Yes, I got an answer from Sheena Jain. Yes. Mahinder Kumar is saying, nahi, koi influence nahi hoga. So any other answers? Srinidhi, Vidula, if you are there. No, because the subsidiary of, it is a subsidiary of Bharti Airtel. His decision imposes only on Airtel, not on Infratel. Okay, so Sai Ram is saying no. Mahinder Kumar is saying no. Any other answers? Jay Srivastav, joint control versus associate differentiate. Okay, we'll do that. I will do that. Okay. All right. See, whenever Sunil Mittal, the director, the CEO of Bharti Airtel, makes a decision, he will make the decision keeping in mind also what will be the likely impact on Infratel. What will be the likely impact on Infratel? Jayas si baat hai. It is a common sense that Sunil Mittal cannot decide or take decisions in favor of Bharti Airtel which are detrimental to Infratel. Can Sunil Mittal say that I am not bothered with Infratel, I am bothered with only Bharti Airtel, so I will take decisions only related to Bharti Airtel's benefits. Infratel का जो होगा मेरे को कोई संबंध नहीं. अरे कैसे संबंध नहीं? How do you not have a interest in that? Whatever profit or loss Infratel makes ultimately belongs to whom? Ultimately, the profit belongs to the parent, that is Bharti Airtel. So if there is any decision taken in favor of Bharti Airtel which is detrimental to Infratel, obviously Sunil Mittal will not take that decision. Obviously, he will not take that decision, and therefore, Mr. Sunil Mittal is in a position to influence to influence Infratel's operations. He is in a position to decide what is better or what is beneficial not only for Bharti Airtel, but he is also in a position to decide what is beneficial for Infratel also. And therefore, can I say now that between Sunil Mittal and Infratel, is there a relationship that you can identify? Is there a relationship that exists? I don't want the name of the relationship. I am just asking, do you believe now that Infratel and Sunil Mittal are in some way related to each other? Yes or no? Sai Ram, tell me now. Okay, you had answered in the negative, and Mahinder, आपने भी कहा था. सुनील मित्तल जो फैसला भारती एयरटेल के लिए लेगा वो इंफ्राटेल के बारे में भी सोचेगा. इंफ्राटेल लॉस मेकिंग हो जाएगा उसके फैसले से, उससे नुकसान किसका होगा? नुकसान तो होगा भारतीय एयरटेल का, और भारतीय एयरटेल का नुकसान होगा तो दैट मीन्स सुनील मित्तल का नुकसान होगा। तो इसीलिए वो वही फैसले लेगा जो दोनों के हित में है, दोनों के भलाई में है। ओके, सो कैन वी नाउ से दैट इन सम वे Sunil Mittal and Infratel are related to each other? Yes, Mahinder is saying yes, Priya is saying yes, Srinidhi is saying yes. So the answer is yes, they are related parties. They are related parties. So if I come to this chart, the person should be the key managerial personnel of the reporting entity, or he can be the KMP of parent of the reporting entity. Parent of the reporting entity. Okay. Parent of the reporting entity. It's not mandatory. It's not mandatory that the person should be the KMP of the reporting entity only. If a person is a key managerial personnel of the parent of the reporting entity, then we can say that the person and the reporting entity are related to each other. I will take this example further. And suppose Infratel has Mr. X as a director. Director means he is a key managerial personnel. He is a key managerial personnel for Infratel. Now zara soch ke batao, just think and answer. Is there a relationship between Bharti Airtel and Mr. X? Just think and answer. Just think and answer. This is control. Okay. Now the question is there any relationship between Mr. X, that is the KMP of the subsidiary, and the parent? Is there any relationship? Do you think that they are related? Come on, Mr. X and Bharti Airtel. आपको क्या लगता है, कोई रिलेशनशिप है या कोई रिलेशनशिप नहीं है? What do you think? Sairam is saying yes. There appears to be a relationship. Okay, so I'm having one answer which says that there appears to be a relationship. Maybe Airtel appoints Mr. X, so there is a relationship. So Jay भी कह रहे हैं Airtel is appointing Infratel, तो relationship है. Yes, I will come to Jay's point. He has made something interesting. Mahinder is saying there is no relationship. Mahinder is saying there is no relationship. Priya Garg, Srinidhi, what do you think? आपको क्या लगता है? Sheena Jain, what do you think? Guys, please answer. The more you answer, the more interesting this session will be. Okay? Yes, Srinidhi is saying that Mr. X and Airtel, they are also related. Okay. So by large, the consensus is that दोनों के बीच में relationship है. Now let us proceed to examine this contention. हम लोग ये चीज के बारे में सोचेंगे. We will think about it. Suppose Mr. X takes a decision which is in the benefit of Infratel. He takes a decision in the benefit of Infratel, and Infratel would want to implement that decision. Okay. That decision is also benefiting the parent. That decision is also benefiting the parent. And because that decision is benefiting the parent, Sunil Mittal will also agree to that decision. Sunil Mittal will also agree to that decision. But suppose we have a case where there is a decision that Mr. X has to take for Infratel. That decision, though it benefits Infratel, it's not causing a benefit to Bharti Airtel. Rather, it is creating, one second, just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, so now it's fine. Sorry. So, if there is any decision which benefits Infratel but does not benefit Bharti Airtel, do you think that Sunil Mittal will allow that decision to be taken? Sunil Mittal influences Bharti Airtel. Ultimately, whether a decision has to be taken or not will be decided by whom? Well, it will be decided ultimately by Bharti Airtel, because now the interest of Bharti Airtel comes into existence. Bharti Airtel will say to the Mr. X, Bharti Airtel will say, look, your decision is affecting me in a negative manner. And therefore, being a controlling shareholder, I will not allow this decision to pass. So, who is able to override whom? Can Mr. X affect Infratel? Yes. But can Mr. X affect Bharti Airtel through his decisions? Answer is no, he cannot. Because he is not in a position, he is not sitting on the KMP board of Bharti Airtel. He is not a CEO, CFO, CEO, etc. Bharti Airtel से उसका कोई संबंध नहीं है. He is related to Infratel. He is not related to Bharti Airtel. He has no capacity to influence Bharti Airtel. He has no capacity to take any decision that is in the favor or adversely affects Bharti Airtel. And therefore, there is no relationship. Therefore, there is no relationship between Mr. X and Bharti Airtel. Jay had raised a very valid point when he said that Bharti Airtel will ultimately appoint Mr. X, who are directors appointed by shareholders. Now, if I am a shareholder of Reliance, we have appointed Mukesh Ambani as the chairman and managing director or CEO, whatever his designation is. So does that make me and Mukesh Ambani related to each other? Answer is no, it does not. Are kaise related hua? You are just delegating somebody to do the job of running the company for you. That does not make you and Mukesh Ambani related to each other. So in the same way, Bharti Airtel will delegate the responsibility to X. Agreed. But that does not make them related parties. It is just an appointment of directors. That's it. When you appoint directors, you do not become related parties. And therefore, if a person is a KMP of a subsidiary, he will be related to the subsidiary, but he will not be related to the parent. But if a person is a KMP of a parent, then that person will be related to the parent also, to the subsidiary also. Is it okay? So here, it is not a related party relationship between Mr. X and Bharti Airtel, but there is a related party relationship between Sunil Mittal as well as Infratel. Okay, so here there is a related party relationship. अरे समझ में आ गया अपने को? Have we understood? Tanushri is also there. Yes. Sheena Jain's answer was right because Mr. X's decision will not influence Bharti Airtel. Absolutely right. Okay. सबको समझ में आ गया? Priya Garg has confirmed. Jay Srivastav and Sai Ram and Mahinder. आपको समझ में आ गया? Mahinder had said no. So this is the picture. So the first chart that we are having for today is relationship with persons. Person having control or a joint control or a significant influence or is a key managerial personnel of the reporting entity or is a KMP of the parent of the reporting entity. If these conditions are fulfilled, then the person is said to be related to the reporting entity. So if any of these conditions are fulfilled, the person and the reporting entity are related parties. They are related parties. Okay? Is it okay? So the first clause is done. Let us now understand. There were some questions. What Tanushri is saying, please explain once again. Okay. Tanushri, think about it. Director of Infratel can take decisions related to Infratel. But suppose that decision, okay, so let me, build up on this example. Infratel is a company that builds towers. Infratel is a company that builds cell phone towers. Okay. For each tower that Infratel builds in backward areas, Infratel will get a government subsidy. Infratel will get a government subsidy of rupees 1 crore. I'm just making the case simple for you to understand. For each tower that Infratel builds in backward areas, okay, if it is built in backward areas, then Infratel will get a subsidy of rupees 1 crore. So Infratel, though Mr. X is seeing subsidy mil raha hai, my profit increases, my remuneration increases. Infratel also gets profit. So we will proceed with the decision and agree to build towers in backward areas. Now, who is ultimately going to benefit from the tower? Ultimate beneficiary will be Bharti Airtel, because spectrum is owned by Bharti Airtel. Spectrum जो है वो Airtel के पास है. Airtel will tell, ठीक है, you put in the tower, but spectrum किधर है? Where is the spectrum? And spectrum होगा भी, even if there is a spectrum in the backward area, where are the customers? You put a tower and you get a subsidy, but tomorrow the benefit of that tower through subscription should come to me, because I am the one who is going to provide connection to the subscribers. And the subscribers only are not there, then what is the point in building a tower in that backward area? So therefore, Bharti Airtel, Sunil Mittal will say, we will not construct a tower in the backward area out of greed for the government subsidy. So Mr. X decided to construct, but who overrode that? Sunil Mittal overrode that by saying it is ultimately going to become a loss proposition for us. And therefore, is Mr. X able to influence Bharti Airtel? Answer is no. And that is why there is no relationship between the parent and the KMP of the subsidiary of the parent. Is it okay? Tanushri, did you follow? Did you follow? Is the example clear now? Acha? So that completes our first part. Tanushri, just confirm. Okay, all right. Now, let us move further. We'll look at the study module. A person has control, joint control over the reporting entity, or he has significant influence over the reporting entity, or is a member of the key management personnel of either the reporting entity or the parent of the reporting entity. If that is the case, then the person would be related to the reporting entity. The person would be related to the reporting entity. Okay. So if that is the case, then a person will be related to the reporting entity. Now, there were some questions as to what is control, what is joint control, and what is significant influence. You will study in detail, but let me just give you an example. Sheena Jain also had a doubt, so we will address that. And one of you had a doubt as to what is significant influence. Mahinder ne pucha tha. Okay, so what do you mean by control? Control means direct relevant activities. Direct relevant activities. That means what? Bharti Airtel will tell Infratel where you put a tower, where you will not put a tower. Can Bharti Airtel do so? Yes. Why can it do so? Because it has control. It has shareholding, whatever be the conditions fulfilled there. Bharti Airtel can tell Infratel what to do. So there is a control. There is a control. And because of the control, Bharti Airtel will also get a share in the profits of Infratel. And when Bharti Airtel prepares consolidated financial statements, Infratel will be consolidated as a subsidiary. We then move on to something known as joint control. Let us take an example. Tata Sons, Singapore Airlines came together, Tata SIA Airlines, which is basically your Vistara. Okay. Now, Tata Sons, I think, holds 51%. Singapore Airlines, I think, holds 49% in this baby. Now, Tata Sons and Singapore Airlines have agreed that both of them will decide about the operations of Tata Singapore Airlines. So suppose tomorrow Tata Sons wants to make a flight from, let us assume, Delhi to United States. Can Tata alone decide about it? Sir, he has 51% holding. But that is not relevant. The relevant point is they have a joint control agreement. Whereby they agree that Vistara will be decided unanimously, whatever has to happen about Vistara. So tomorrow, if Vistara wants to fly from Delhi to United States and Tata Sons decides that, then Singapore Airlines also should agree to that. Otherwise, Tata Sons alone cannot decide, even though Tata Sons owns 51%. So, does Tata Sons have control over Vistara? Answer is no. Unilateral control nahi hai. In the case of Bharti Airtel and Infratel, it was unilateral control. In the case of Vistara, Tata Sons and Singapore together have to decide. Tomorrow, Singapore Airlines wants to have a flight from, let us say, Delhi to Africa, for example. Delhi to Egypt, that is Cairo. Singapore Airlines wants it. But Tata Sons will say, I do not want it. So can Vistara fly from Delhi to Cairo in Egypt? Answer is no, it cannot. So therefore, both of them have to agree. That is the meaning of joint control. Now, when I talk about joint control, Sheena Jain had a doubt. What in the case of joint shareholders? So, for example, each share is held jointly. Okay, is held jointly. That is by, suppose, Mr. A and Mr. B. Both of them are holding each share of a particular company. Would it be joint control? It depends on whether there is a shareholder agreement between both of them. Normally, the fact is that whoever is the first holder is the one entitled to voting rights. Okay. So in the case of joint holding, it depends on whether a shareholding agreement exists. And if it exists, then even if they hold, say, 48 to 50%, with the other shareholders being widely dispersed, then we can say that there is a joint control. Otherwise, it is just a control. Okay. Next one. We shall move on to control हो गया. Then we move on to significant influence. Significant influence. Saudi Aramco. नाम सुना होगा. You must have heard this. This has invested 25% in Reliance Industries. Reliance Industries के books में it has invested 25%. So 25% of Reliance Industries share capital is held by Saudi Aramco. Is it a significant share? Definitely it is. Definitely it is. Okay. Tomorrow, Reliance wants to take any decision for anything related to its operations. Mukesh Ambani holds 48%. Okay. He holds 48%. Mutual funds, foreign institutional investors, in सबका मिला के they are holding the balance. Shareholders holding less than 1%, so lots of them are there. Okay. So practically, Ambani has control over Reliance. Practically, Ambani has control over Reliance. Because he's the only shareholder, jo wo bolega, Reliance is going to do that. So now the question arises, what is the role of Saudi Aramco in Reliance Industries? Saudi Aramco gets a place on the board. Gets a place on the board of Reliance Industries. So tomorrow, if any decision has to be taken for a particular event or a particular transaction, decision will ultimately be what Mukesh Ambani takes. But because Saudi Aramco is on the board, can it participate in the decision? Yes, it can say yes, it can say no. If it says no, it can also give a reason why Saudi Aramco is not in favor of that decision. Will these negative feedback reach Mukesh Ambani, the controlling shareholder? Definitely, because he's also on the board. Aramco is also on the board. So at least Saudi Aramco's viewpoint will reach Mukesh Ambani. Now Mukesh Ambani at least दूसरी बार सोचेगा. If a 25% shareholder is saying something against my decision, that means probably something detrimental could be there. And if that is the case, Ambani can sit back and think about it. Even after thinking, if he decides, uska khud ka mamla hai, for me it's beneficial, he can implement the decision. But if he is influenced by that, there are chances that he may also backtrack from the decision. So can I say that Saudi Aramco is having a significant influence on Reliance Industries? Definitely. But is it in a position to decide? Answer is no, it's not. It can only express. वो सिर्फ अपना आवाज बयां कर सकता है. वो सिर्फ अपना, he can only express its opinion, but it cannot decide on the operations. उसको हम लोग बोलते हैं significant influence. We call that as the significant influence. So I hope that clarifies our things. Okay. So the first part is done. Srinidhi, for the entities, I will come to that later. Your query is related to entities. We have lot of discussions on entities. So we will come to that later. Okay. Now we move on to the next part. जब persons होते हैं, then these persons will also be influenced by some other persons. So that some other person, the standard calls it as close family members. The standard calls it as close family members. Okay. What do you mean by close family members? So the standard proceeds to describe close members of the family are one who may be expected to influence or be influenced by that person. If Mukesh Ambani is holding shares, is a controlling shareholder of Reliance Industries, he will be influenced by his wife Neeta Ambani. He will be influenced by his son, by his daughter, Akash, Anand, whatever, unka jo bhi parivar hai. Do you think he will be influenced by them? Definitely. वो परिवार है. परिवार में we are meant to influence each other. Okay. For bad or for good, I don't know, but we are meant to influence each other. And therefore, close members of the family are also included when we talk about person. So who is a close member of a close family member for a person. Who is that? It includes, so this is an inclusive definition. Inclusive. Okay. So it includes that person's children. So if I talk about Mukesh Ambani, it will include Mukesh Ambani, his spouse, that is Neeta Ambani. For the time being, I will just avoid this. Mukesh Ambani's brother, Anil Ambani, sister शायद है नहीं उनका. He was influenced by his father, Dhirubhai Ambani, as well as his mother, Kokilaben Ambani. So all these have an influence on the person. And therefore, these people will also become related to the reporting entities. These persons also become related to the reporting entity. So now you look at this clause. A person or a close member of that person's family is related to a reporting entity if that person, a person, Mukesh Ambani, or a close member of his family, Neeta Ambani, his children, his father, mother, they are related if that person means if Mukesh Ambani has control, joint control or significant influence or is a member of the KMP of the reporting entity or a parent of the reporting entity. Is it okay? So if Mukesh Ambani is related to a reporting entity, uska pura khandan usse related hoga. His entire family will be related to the reporting entity. So when I talk about close members, it includes spouse, children, father, mother, brother, sister, and also one thing, that is the domestic partner. We have come a long way in implementing Ind AS. These are drawn from foreign standards. So IAS 24, you should know that the culture of marriage is not that prevalent outside. Okay. It's slowly seeping into India also, where we are now recognizing living in relationships also. So therefore, when I talk about domestic partner, it's two people in a live-in relationship. They are not husband and wife legally, but they are living in together. So the domestic partner, will they influence each other? Definitely they will. Definitely they will. Out of love, affection, bonding, they will definitely influence each other. So domestic partner means the one who is in a live-in relationships. Acha, domestic partner should always be of the opposite gender, not necessary. Okay, again, we are coming from outside. It may be difficult to digest, but you have to understand that domestic partners could mean two persons of the same gender living together. Those nahi hai, it's definitely more than a friend. They are living together. Okay, so two males, two females, when they live together, they become a domestic partner. If that person is what you can say has control, joint control, his or her domestic partner also will be related to the reporting entity. This point. The next one is children of that person's spouse. Acha, here also children is there. That person's children. Here, children of that person's spouse or domestic partner. What is the difference? So suppose Mr. A is having control over A Limited. Mr. A marries Miss B. Miss B already had a marriage and she had X as her son. She had X as her son. Mr. A also was married previously and now he has his wife passed away. So he has Y as his daughter. So if I have to talk about A Limited now, obviously Mr. A has control. So Mr. A is a related party. Yes. Is a related party. Y is the person's children. Y is the person's children. So Y will be a related party. Miss B is the spouse of Mr. A or domestic partner of Mr. A. So Miss B will be related. X is the children of the spouse or children of the domestic partner of Miss B. And therefore X also will be related to the company A Limited. So this is the meaning of this sentence. Okay. So close members में persons, children, spouse, partner, brother, sister, father, mother. Children of that person's spouse or domestic partner. So suppose you have remarried someone, then if that person has a child, that person will be influenced by that child. So indirectly, you are also going to get influenced by that child. And that is how the relationship works. And dependents of that person or the person's spouse or the person's domestic partner. Abhi dependents matlab kaun? It is not restricted to blood relations. Not restricted to blood relations. Okay. It could be anyone. It could be anyone. It could be a friend. It could be your grandparents. Anyone it could be. Okay. So as long as they are dependent on that person or that person's spouse or that person's domestic partner, then those persons are also going to be known as close members of the family. And by that virtue, those persons also will be related to the company, will be related to the reporting entity. Okay. Now, when I talk about the person's children or children of that person's spouse, in both these cases, they may be dependent or they may be independent. Doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Whether they are dependent or independent, koi farak nahi padta. What matters is if these are the relationships, then they will be close members of the family. And by virtue of that, they will be related to the reporting entity. Dependents ka specifically it's mentioned separately. So that person's spouse or domestic partner are also included. Are have we understood now? First clause have we understood in detail? Give me your understanding, please. Give me your understanding. Have you understood this part? Yes or no? Is legal guardian of children also included? So suppose Mr. A has a son. His wife passed away. So the question is legal guardian of that son. Now that won't happen because in this case, the father himself is there. So there won't be a legal guardian as such. Okay. But if you talk in terms of relationships, I don't think there would be a legal guardian being related because ultimately you have to look at whether that legal guardian is dependent on Mr. A, which is unlikely to be the case, and therefore legal guardians of children will not be included. But if that legal guardian is dependent on Mr. A, then yes, by virtue of clause 4C, he will be, that legal guardian will be close members of the family, and by virtue of that, they would be related to the reporting entity. Okay. So Tanushri, Srinidhi, are we clear? Mahinder ने confirm कर दिया. प्रिया गर्ग, साई राम, जय श्रीवास्तव, अपने को समझ में आ गया? Yes. Done? Yes, Sai Ram has also confirmed. Okay. So now we move on to the next, and this is the most important. Be very careful. Listen. I will be drawing charts. I would want you also to draw the charts because the words are very confusing. If you just look at the words and try to study, it will be next to impossible, because रट नहीं सकते, रटेंगे तो समझ नहीं सकते. Okay, so therefore understand with the help of charts, and you should be fairly comfortable with the discussions. You should be fairly comfortable with the discussion. Okay, so now we have completed. I told you that relationships are of two types, with persons and with entities. So we have completed this part. The next 1 hour till 9 o'clock. Okay, forget that you have any other thing in mind and just put your full focus on this. Okay, so relationship with entities is what we are starting now. And my suggestion, if you can implement, draw the charts along with me. Okay, so this is 6A. 6A, page number 11.6. Okay, so now what does this say? An entity is related to a reporting entity. So it's talking about an entity now. So person ka kaam khatam ho gaya. An entity is related to a reporting entity if any of the following condition applies. So each of these clauses are separate. If each of these clauses also one condition is fulfilled, then they becomes related to the reporting entity. So what is the first condition? The entity and the reporting entity are members of the same group, which means that each parent, subsidiary and fellow subsidiary are related to the others. Okay. So now 6A. Parent has two subsidiaries. A, B. Parent has two subsidiaries, A and B. Now, when I talk about subsidiary, it means that there is a control. It means that there is a control. So what does it tell? What does the clause tell? The entity and the reporting entity are members of the same group. If that is the case, then the entity would be related to the reporting entity. So suppose P is my reporting entity. P is the reporting entity. I am preparing P's balance sheet. So in P's balance sheet, will A be a related party? Definitely. Will A be a related party? Definitely. Will B be a related party? Definitely. If I talk about A's balance sheet, not P, now I'm preparing A's balance sheet. A will definitely be related to P. P will definitely be related to A because there is a direct relationship. But the question is, will B be related to A? Will B be related to A? Answer is yes. The words used is an entity, that is B, will be related to the reporting entity, that is A, if they are members of the same group. A is a member of the group where the parent is P. B is also a member of the group where the parent is P, and therefore A and B are both members of the same group, and therefore will they be related? Answer is yes. They will be related parties. They will be related parties. Is it okay? Is it fine, everyone? Any doubts? We will then move on to the next one. Okay. We will move on to another chart. This is chart 1, you can say. The same clause. Okay. The same clause. Parent has one subsidiary A, has another subsidiary B. Srinidhi, this is your question. Has another subsidiary C. Parent has one subsidiary A, one subsidiary B, and B has another subsidiary C. So now the question is, you are preparing the financials of A, for example. You are preparing the financials of A. Can A be related to C? Or if I have to ask in the words of the standard, C is an entity. Is C related to A? That is the reporting entity. What do you think? The words are, an entity, that is C, will be related to A, that is the reporting entity, if both of them are members of the same group. What is the meaning of the word group? Group is equal to, in this context, parent plus subsidiary only. Group in this context is parent plus subsidiary only. So now A and C are members of the same group, and therefore C is a related party for A. So are they related parties? Yes, they are related parties. They are related parties. We then move on to another case. Suppose you are preparing P's financials. Suppose you are preparing P's financials. Is B a related party of P? Give your answer. Is B a related party of P? What do you think? Is B a related party of P? Srinidhi, tell me the answer. Is B related to P? Yes, obviously. B is a subsidiary of a subsidiary of P. That means P, A, B and C are all members of the same group, and therefore B is related to P. So are they related parties? Yes, they definitely are related parties. We'll go one step down. Even C is related to P. Even C is related to P. Okay. You can write here A, B, C are subsidiaries of P. Are subsidiaries of P. Here also A, B are subsidiaries of P. Okay. Okay. So Srinidhi, your query is addressed. Yes, all clear? Okay. So then let us move on to a slightly complex structure. P S1, S2, these are subsidiaries, S3, S4, S5, S6, S7. So now tell me, you are preparing S6's balance sheet. Is S7 related to S6? Is S7 related to S6? Is S7 related to S6? Yes. ये subsidiary तो है. These are subsidiaries only. Members of the same group. That means parent, subsidiary and fellow subsidiary. Okay. So it is parent and subsidiary only. I have told you group is parent plus subsidiary for this discussion. So now tell me whether S7 is related to S6. Recollect the words of the clause. An entity S7 is related to other reporting entity S6 if both the entities are members of the same group. So is S6 and S7 members of the same group? Yes, because ultimately the parent is P. P has these subsidiaries and therefore the whole unit becomes one single group. And therefore, because they are one single group, are they related to each other? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. They are related to each other. Is P related to S6? Same reasoning, yes. Yes. Same reasoning, yes. Okay. Is P related to S5? Yes. Is P related to S7? Yes. Is S3 related to S5? Yes. Is S3 related to S2? Yes. S1 to S3? Yes. So jitne bhi combination hai in one group, all the members are related to each other. So we call in this case S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, S7. All these subsidiaries are co-subsidiaries or fellow subsidiaries. Okay. So co-subsidiaries, fellow subsidiaries are always related with each other as well as with the parent. Parent is obviously related with all the subsidiaries. Okay. Parent is obviously related to all the subsidiaries. Yes, great. So that concludes first clause 6A. Don't go into joint venture, associate, blah, blah, blah. We will take one clause at a time. Usse kya hoga? Things start to get simpler. Things start to get simpler. So have you drawn these three charts? Have you drawn these three charts for clause 6A? Draw these three charts or take a screenshot. Whatever is suiting you. Written down? Okay. All right. So then we move on to the next one. Then we move on to 6B. 6B. Page 11.7. Okay. An entity is related to a reporting entity if one entity is an associate or joint venture of the other entity, or an associate or joint venture of a member of a group of which the other entity is a member. अरे सर बहुत ज्यादा मतलब complicated लग रहा है. It's quite complicated. We will go step by step. One entity is an associate or a joint venture of the other entity. Okay. So we have parent. Or we have a company P. P has a joint venture J and an associate A. You are preparing P Limited's financials. You are preparing P Limited's financials. One entity is an associate or a joint venture. So is it a joint venture? J? Yes. Is it an associate? A? Yes. So these are related. These are related. Okay. One entity is an associate or a joint venture of the other entity. So J is a joint venture of P. A is an associate of A. So are they related parties? Yes. Are they related parties? Yes. This is an associate. This is a joint venture. This is a joint venture. J, A. Are they related to each other? We will keep that pending. Are they related to each other? We will keep that as pending. We will keep that as pending. So, in this chart, for P, J and A are related parties. For J, P is related party. For A, P is related party. I have not yet discussed J and A together. Okay, I have kept it as pending. Okay, so that is why it's not included here. Okay, J, A is pending. JA is pending. Okay. So have you understood this? Yes. Now Let us move on to the next one. If one entity is an associate or a joint venture of a member of a group of which the other entity also is a member. Okay. Now we proceed further. We have entity P. S1, S2, S3, S4. S4 has one joint venture J1. J1 has another joint venture J2. S2 has another joint venture J3. S3 has an associate A1. A1 has another associate A2. Sir, what is meant by associate? When you have only significant influence, I had told you, no, significant influence. Aramco influencing Reliance Industries. So that means Saudi Aramco is an associate of Reliance Industries. Okay, that is the meaning of associate. जहां पे significant influence होता है, where there is a significant influence. Generally more than 20% holding up to 50% holding. Okay, एक layman के हिसाब से. Okay, from the perspective of a layman. All right. Now, this is done. We were doing this. Now, I am preparing S2's financials. Is J1 related to S2? Is J1 related to S2? J1, S2. Are they related? And now let us look at the words. One entity is an associate or a joint venture. Is it a joint venture? Yes, it is a joint venture. Of whom? Of member of a group. So, is S4 a member of the group? Yes. P, S1, S2, S3, S4. This whole thing. One group. This whole thing is one group. Okay. So now, a joint venture of a member of a group. So J1 is a joint venture of S4 and S4 is a member of the group and of which the other entity also is a member. So is S2 a member of the group? Answer is yes. S2 also is a member of the group. So J1 and S2, are they related parties? Yes, they are related parties. They are related parties. Are, have we understood this? Have we understood this? Did we understand this? Yes. Sairam, associate is for the time being, you just understand that. Baki Sheena Jain, Srinidhi, Mahinder, Jay Srivastav, Tanushri. Have you understood this part? Yes. ठीक है. So अभी कितना समझ में आ गया? I will test. Okay. S4 A1. You are preparing S4's balance sheet. So now you tell me, is A1 related to S4? Is A1 related to S4? Okay. Give me the answer. S4A1. You can write in your answer S4A1 dash yes. Okay. What is the relationship between S2 and J1? S2 is a member of the group. J1 is a joint venture of another member of the group. So that only is the relationship. Okay. That only is the relationship. अभी ना I will give one filmy dialogue. हर रिश्ते का नाम नहीं होता. Okay, there is no name for every relationship. बस वही है S2 और J1 का रिश्ता. ठीक है? There is no name for every relationship. So we cannot say that S2 and J1 have a name, but yes, they are related parties. They are related parties. Okay? Don't search for the name. Look at the clause. S4 and A1. I need your answers. S4 and A1. Let me put some more questions for you. S3, J3. S2, A2. S2, A2. S1, A1. P, J1. S4, J2. S3, A2. Okay, give me the answers to this now. You should not find any difficulty if you have understood how to interpret. If you have not understood, I will tell you how to interpret once again. Okay. S1, A2. Okay, so I'm getting the answers now. Sai Ram is saying S4A1. S4A1. Sai Ram is saying it is a related party. Mahinder Kumar also is saying that it is a related party. What about girls? Srinidhi, Sheena Jain, and who else is there? Boys, I have Jay Srivastav and Tanushri, if you are there still. S4A1. S4A1 related. Srinidhi is saying, sir, all are related. अरे ऐसा नहीं होता ना. Look at the words. Beta, Srinidhi, think about it. Okay. An associate. If one entity is an associate of a member of the group. So is A1 an associate of a member of the group? Yes. A1 is an associate of a member of the group. S3. And the other entity also should be a member. So S4 is already a member of the group. So will S4 and A1 be related? Yes. On same lines, S3, J3 is a joint venture of S2. So J3 is a joint venture of a member of the group, of which S3 also is a member. So S3 is a member. So is there a relationship here? Yes. So S3, J3 are related parties. Yes, yes, I'm getting the answers now. Priya Garg has confirmed. Tanushri has also replied correctly. S4A1. Sheena Jain is saying S3, J3 are related. Okay. All right. Good. Next. Both khichdi pak gaya. I'll just rub off these lines. The next question is S2, A2. we are preparing S2's balance sheet. The question is A2 related to S2? Is A2 related to S2? And look at the words. The entities will be related if one entity is an associate of a member of a group. Member of the group means what? Members of the same group means parent, subsidiary, fellow subsidiary. Now, A2 is an associate of A1. But is A1 a member of the group? Answer is no. Not a member of the group. Not a member of the group. And because it is not a member of the group, can I say that A2 is not a member of the group, whereas S2 is a member of the group? And therefore, is there a relationship between S2 and A2? Srinidhi, there is no relationship. Okay, so S2 and A2, not related parties. Not related parties. Okay. Why? The words are joint venture of a member of the group, and the other company should be a member of that same group. The other company should be a member of that same group. Okay, so you can think it of like this. P, S1, S2, S3, S4 are one unit. वो एक family है. Direct relationship with the family, जो कुछ भी है, directly related will be related to the members of each family. Indirect relationships जो है, they will not be considered. They will not be considered. Okay. All right. Next one. S1, A1. Is A1 a member of, let me rub these lines now because I have to draw some more. ये तो हो गया एक group. Now you are preparing S1's financials. Is S1 is A1 related to S1? Associate of S3. S3 is a member of the group. So A1 is an associate of a member of the group and S1 is a member of the same group. And therefore S1 A1 becomes a related party. Becomes a related party. Okay. Next one. P and J1. Parent and J1. Parent and J1. It's asking about this relation. Is J1 is a joint venture of a member of the group? Yes. S4 is a member. J1 is a joint venture of S4. So J1 becomes a joint venture of a member of the group. Is P a member of the group? हाँ, सारे जड़ का फसाद तो P ही है. P ने इतना सारा incorporate किया है. So P is a member of the group. S4 is also a member. J1 is a joint venture of S4 and therefore P and J1 are your related parties. These are your related parties. Next one. S4 and J2. S4, J2. Yes. S1, A1 related Sheena Jain. S1, A1. That's right. P and J1 related. That is also right. S4, J2, S3, J2. S4, J2. This is the one. Are they related? Answer is no, they are not. S4 and J2 are not related because J2 is not a joint venture of a member of the group. J2 is a joint venture of a joint venture of a member of the group. Sir, थोड़ा लिख के बताओ. J1 is joint venture of member of a group. Whereas J2 is joint venture of member of a group. These are two different things. These are two different things. Okay. These are two different things. And therefore, J2 is not a joint venture of a member of the group. Member of the group means parents and subsidiaries, fellow subsidiaries only. Associate will not come in that. Joint venture will not come in that. So we are not discussing that. We are not saying that they are members of the group. So J2 is not a joint venture of any of the member of the group, and therefore S4 and J2 is not a related party. Not related party. For same reasons, S3 and J2, no, not related party. And for same reasons, sorry, S3 and A2 पूछा था ना? S3, A2, no. S1, A2 also is no. Not related party. Okay. Not a related party. Okay. Yes. Tanushri is right. S3, A2 not related. S1, A2 not related. S1, A2 not related. Priya also has confirmed. S4, J2 not related. S3, A2 not related. Absolutely right. Good. You're getting a hang of it. Okay. So, Jay is asking a question. Jay's question is, in the module, other entity का जिक्र किया है. There is the words other entity. तो कौन है ये other entity is what is Jay's question. Let us understand that. Okay. Good thing. You have the module in front of you. That means. Okay. Now look at it. Okay. 1 second. One entity is an associate or joint venture of a member of the group. So, related party हम कब decide करते हैं? It is with reference to two entities. Related party is by referencing two entities. Okay. So, let us talk about S1. This was S2, I think, right? And this was S3. So, if you are preparing the balance sheet and S2 is the reporting entity, J3 or I can say A1. Now look at the words. J1 is a joint venture of a member of the group. So J1 is the joint venture of a member of the group. Yes. Of which the other entity. So the other entity means what? Other entity means the reporting entity. Other entity means the reporting entity. And therefore J1 and S2 become related. If I have to talk about S3 and J3, if I have to talk about S3 and J3, J3 is a joint venture of a member of the group, of which the other entity, that is whose balance sheet you are preparing, that is the reporting entity, is also a member. So are they related parties? Yes. So this is the meaning of other entity. This is the meaning of other entity. Okay. So Jay, hope आपको समझ में आ गया. अच्छा, what I have not covered, I will tell you. J1, J3 is pending. A1, J3 is pending. J1, A1 is pending. Bas. These are the three relationships which are still pending. I have not asked, I have not discussed. We will discuss this towards the later session of this chapter. Okay, abhi aayega, it will come shortly. Okay, these are just illustrative lists, but at least I am glad that you got a broad idea. So this whole thing is one group. Take it off like that and then you will be able to understand. ये एक group है, मतलब it will be regarded as one entity and accordingly you make a decision. Okay. Yes. So 6B is done. 6B is done. 6C, page 11.7. 6C, page 11.7. Acha, wait a minute. Just before this, one small note and then we shall proceed. Okay. An associate, this is not 6C, this is just a note for the earlier one. An associate includes subsidiaries of associate and joint venture includes joint venture of associate. Includes joint venture of associate. Okay. So we have been discussing same group. So same group means parent as well as subsidiaries. Okay. So now suppose I have a case where parent has a subsidiary S1. S1 has an associate or a joint venture. Okay, we'll keep it as an associate A1. A1 has a subsidiary S2. A1 has a subsidiary S2. Can I say that this is one group, parent and subsidiary, one group? Can I say that A1 and S2 are also one group? Yes. Can I say that A1 and S2 are also one group? Yes, they are. So therefore, now let us understand the relationship. P and S1 are related parties, obviously, by virtue of clause 1. Parent and subsidiary is related to each other. Likewise, A1 and S2 are related parties. We now move to S1 and A1. S1 and A1. What is the relationship? अच्छा ये अभी तक कवर नहीं हुआ है क्या? नहीं, associate है ना? Associate is there here. One entity is an associate or joint venture of the other entity. So S1, A1 are related parties by virtue of 6B. These two are by virtue of 6A. Okay. So S1, A1 is done. Now, is P related to A1? Answer is yes, because A1 is an associate of S1 who is a member of the group. Okay, so P is also a member of the group. So P and A1 are related parties. P and A1 are related parties. Okay. Now the next question that arises is, are S1 and S2 related? Are S1 and S2 related? Are S1 and S2 related? So look at the interpretation which is given. Associate includes subsidiaries of associate. So associate A1 will also include its subsidiary S2, and therefore these become related parties. Therefore these become related parties. Acha, A1 ke jagah pe if I had to have J1 joint venture, would the case be the same? Answer is yes, it would be the same, because a joint venture also includes one second, ये मैंने क्या लिखा? I wrote this wrong. सो रहा हूं. Includes subsidiaries of joint venture. Subsidiaries of joint venture. Okay. So S2 is a subsidiary of J1. So joint venture includes subsidiaries of joint venture, and therefore S1 and S2 in both the cases will become a related party. Let us move on to the last case for this. P, S1, J1, J2 S2. So this is one group. This is one group. P to S1 related parties. S1 to J1 related parties. J to S2 related parties. J1, J2 related parties. S1, S2. S1, S2. What do you think? S1, S2. Are they related parties now? Do you think S1 and S2 would be related in this case? No. Mahinder is saying no. Sairam is saying yes. Answer is no. Not related party. Understand the concept. Is J2 a joint venture of a member of the group? Answer is no. J1 जो है, it is not a member of the group. J1 is not a member of the group, and therefore J1 member nahi hai. That is why J2 cannot be related to S1. That is why J2 cannot be related to S1, and for the same reason S1 cannot be related to S2. S1 cannot be related to S2. Okay, so J2, S1 also not a related party. Not a related party. J answer is right. Girls, are you following? Yes. Next, shall we proceed? We are running behind time as usual. 6C, page 11.7. Both entities are joint ventures of the same third party. So I have parent, J1, J2. You are preparing J1's balance sheet. Is J2 related to J1? Answer is yes. By virtue of 6C. By virtue of 6C. अच्छा, previous page ये ले लो. I hope it's clear. Is it visible, everyone? Yeah. Okay. All right. Next. C. What does clause C tell us? 6C tells us they are related if both the entities are joint ventures of the same third party. So J1 is a joint venture of P. J2 is also a joint venture of P. And therefore, J1 and J2 are related to each other. J1 and J2 are related to each other. Okay. So this is the first chart for 6C. This is the first chart for 6C. Okay. The second chart for 6C. And here most of us will go a little wrong, but I want to see if you can interpret. P has two subsidiaries, S1 and S2. S2 has J1. Sorry, S1 has J1, S2 has J2. The question is J2 related to J1? Is J2 related to J1? Is J2 related to J1? महेंद्र कुमार कह रहे हैं yes. Jay, hope your query got solved. How was J1 and J2 related to each other? Yeah. J1, J2, Tanushri is saying not related. Sheena Jain is saying by virtue of 6B they are related. Sairam is also saying yes. Mahinder is saying not a related party. Those of you who said no, I don't blame you. On simple understanding, same third party is S1 and S2 are not the same third parties. So our immediate reaction will be J1 and J2 are not related to each other. मेरे साथ भी ऐसा हुआ था. It had also happened to me. But what the standard setters do is they view this P, S1 and S2 as one unit. It's not mentioned anywhere, but they view this whole thing as a single entity, one group. So J1 is joint venture of S1, J2 is joint venture of S2. Therefore, J1 and J2 are joint ventures of same third party नहीं है, group, same third group. Hence J1 and J2 are related based on same third party group concept. Based on same third party group concept. Six B beta J1 J2. One second. And S1 S2. 6B note. Example of J1 J2. Where have I discussed J1 J2? I have not discussed J1 J2 anywhere. But J1 will be related to J2. Between them, J1 will be related to J2 because ultimately there is a joint control. Ultimately there is a joint control of J1 over J2. And the other one, S1 S2 आपस में these also will be related. Why? This is by virtue of 6a. Members of the same group are related to each other. Okay. Baki J1, J3 I have not discussed. A1, J3 I have not discussed. J1, A1 I have not discussed. I'll come to that. Okay. Both are joint ventures of the same third party. So third party should be interpreted as group. Should be interpreted as group. Okay. Are you talking about this slide, Priya Garg? Are you talking about this one? Note example of J1, J2, S1, S2. Acha, I think you must be talking about this. Acha. See. J1, J2. Okay. See, J1 and J2 will always be related parties. Why? Because J1 jointly controls J2. J1 jointly controls J2. So this is a related party. S1 and S2. Now see, J2 is a joint venture of J1. J1 is not a member of P group. J1 is not a member of the group, and therefore between S1 and S2 there is no related party relationship. No related party relationship. But in this case, A1 or J1 is an associate or a joint venture of S1, which is a member of the group, and therefore in the above interpretation, associate includes subsidiaries, that is S2, and therefore S1, S2 are what you can say, S1 and S2 are related to each other. Okay, so I hope that is your that is your problem. Okay, that is your difficulty. Okay, all right. I hope it is sorted out. But Priya Garg, if you can elaborate on your difficulty, please help me. Okay. All right. So that concludes 6C also. So when we talk about same third party, it is third group concept. Third group concept. What do you mean by third group concept? You look at the group, which is the parent and its subsidiaries. Treat it as one party and then arrive at the decision. Based on that, in the first case, it was parent having J1 and J2 as joint ventures. So J1, J2 would be related. But in the second example, parent had subsidiaries S1, S2. Each of these subsidiaries had J1, J2. So the standard interprets it as P, S1 and S2 together are nothing but one group. So that becomes the same third party. And therefore, J1 is a joint venture of that third party. J2 is also a joint venture of that third party. And therefore, J1 and J2 are related to each other. Okay, so same third party means third group concept. Okay, group concept. Okay, so that is, my friends, 6C. That is 6C. Okay, then we move on to 6D. We'll finish this. We'll write a summary and then we take a break. Okay. One entity is a joint venture of a third entity. Okay. And the other entity is an associate of the third entity. Okay. So a 6D. I have parent. This parent, I have J1 and A1. So if you are preparing J1's financial statements, is associate related to a joint venture? Answer is yes, by virtue of clause 6D. One entity is a joint venture. So J is a joint venture. of the third entity. The other entity is an associate. This is an associate of the third entity. And therefore, the answer is yes, they are related parties. They are related parties. Will I have the same group concept here also? Yes, you will have the same group concept here also. P S1, S2, J1, A1. So this whole thing is viewed as one single this whole thing is viewed as one single entity. One single entity. And therefore, is A1 related to J1? Yes. Opposite also holds true. Is J1 related to A1? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. Same third group concept applicable. Okay. Have you written this down? Have you written this down? And are you clear with that? Third group concept applicable here also. Okay, so Priya Garg has confirmed that it is clear. So now, overall, we are almost done with the reporting entities part. Only two are left, which is quite simple. Now the question is, how do I remember this? How do I remember this? Okay, so summary, parent, we are examining the relationship between entity 1 and entity 2. We are examining the relationship between entity 1 and entity 2. The parent is obviously related to entity 1 as well as to entity 2. Okay. The parent is already related to both the entities. Okay. अरे हाँ ना यार, जय श्रीवास्तव किया ना यार. We have done that example. Subsidiaries associate. किया ना here. Look at this. A1 is associate of subsidiary. Will it be related? Obviously, no. Same concept. Yes. Related party. We had done P and J1. So obviously P and A1 also will hold true. We have done that. Okay. So now look at this summary. If entity 1 is a subsidiary and entity 2 also is a subsidiary, then by virtue of clause 6a, same group, these become related parties. These become related parties. Next, if this is a subsidiary, this is a joint venture, then by virtue of clause 6b, by virtue of clause 6b, which is JV of group member, So these are also related parties. We have done this. Next, this is a subsidiary. This is an associate. This is an associate. So now, this is again by virtue of 6C, associate of group member. Associate of group member. Associate of group member. Next, J1. This is 6B, not C. Next is J1, J2. J1 and J2. These are related parties. J1, J2 are also related parties by virtue of clause C. Both are joint ventures of the same third party. JV of same third party. JV of same third party. Next one is J1, A1. Are they related parties? Yes. This is by virtue of 6D. JV and associate of same third party. Of same third party. J1 and A1. So now, check this out. S1, S2 will be related. S1, J1 will be related. S1, A1 will be related. S1, J2 will be related. J1, A1 will be related. J1, J2 will be related. Now, just have a look. Look at what? Look at this transaction. Transaction ka left hand side dekho. It is parent with subsidiary or joint ventures. That means on one side, if there is control or joint control. If there is control or joint control. And in the other side, there is control, joint control, or significant influence. Control, joint control, or significant influence. Control means subsidiary, joint control means joint venture, J. A1, that is associate, means significant influence. So when there is a control, joint control, or significant influence, then these two parties will be related with each other. These two parties will be related with each other. So what is important is, at least on one side, control or joint control must exist by the parent. At least on one side. Okay. At least on one side, your control or joint control must be there. Okay. You cannot have significant influence on the left side, significant influence on the right side, and prepare a related party transaction. There has to be control, there has to be joint control, either of the two on one side. Other side can be anything. It could be control, it could be joint control, it could be significant influence. For example, if entity 1 is an associate A1, entity 2 is an associate A2. Both of them are associates of the parent. Both of them are associates of the parent. Will they be related party? Answer is not related party. Answer is not related party. Why is it not a related party? Why is it not a related party? Because this is significant influence. this is also significant influence, and therefore there is no related party relationship. Are have you understood? And note this chart down, please. Note this chart down. Okay, very, very important. Note this chart, very important. This chart captures all the points that we have discussed in so much detail. So two entities will be related if at least one entity is having control or joint control, and the other entity could have control, joint control, or significant influence. Are have you understood? Have you understood? जितना देर से जवाब दोगे उतना देर से ब्रेक मिलेगा, उतना देर सेशन कंप्लीट होगा. Yes, sir. Mahinder has confirmed. Okay. Noted the chart and understood. Okay. So we take a 5-minute break. It's 9:16 right now. By 9:21, 9:22, we should assemble. Okay. So 5-minute break, please. ठीक है. Nisarg. Okay. All right. So, welcome back. So, the most important conclusions of all the four clauses that we have seen, 6A, 6B, 6C, and 6D, the most important conclusion is entity 1 and entity 2 will be related to each other if one entity is having control or joint control by the parent and the other entity is either controlled or jointly controlled or significantly influenced by the same entity. Okay, by the same entity. All right, so that is by far the most important conclusion. So now with this conclusion, I don't think you should have any difficulty in understanding and interpreting the what you can say, the clauses. Okay, so that was 6A, B, C, D. Now we move on to 6E. Now we move on to 6E. Okay, 6E. Page 11.7. The entity is a post-employment benefit plan for the benefit of employees of either the reporting entity or an entity related to the reporting entity. So for example, you have a company like HUL. You have a company like Hindustan Unilever Limited. Hindustan Unilever Limited has HUL Employees Welfare Trust. HUL Employees Welfare Trust. Now, just a minute. Sorry for that. Okay. So, HUL has an HUL Employees Welfare Trust, and this HUL Employees Welfare Trust, what does it do is, normally you will study in Ind AS 19 or you would already have studied. These entities, they provide something known as gratuity, leave encashment, etc. So Ind AS 19 requires you to make an annual provision. Now, suddenly, after an employee completes 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in service and he retires or resigns, he will demand his gratuity. Now, the gratuity will be a huge cash outflow for the company at the time of resignation or retirement of the employee. So what the entity does is, to avoid any cash problems at that point of time, HUL, the employer, what it will do is, it will deposit some amount of money in a separate organization. In this case, in our example, the HUL Employees Welfare Trust. So HUL will deposit the money there. The Employees Welfare Trust will then invest that money and get returns out of it. That corpus with the interest goes on increasing. And finally, when the employees resign or retire, then at that point of time, the Employees Welfare Trust will pay the amounts on account of gratuity, leave encashment, etc. to the employee. So that is how the transaction happens. So now, if HUL is the reporting entity, then what the clause tells us? The clause tells us that the entity is a post-employment benefit plan. So HUL Employees Welfare Trust is a post-employment benefit plan for the benefit of employees of either the reporting entity. So this becomes a related party. And the next one is, or an entity related to the reporting entity. So related party of HUL, related party of HUL. Okay. So even this case, they will start to become related parties. If HUL Employees Welfare Trust also provides services for the related parties of HUL, for the related parties of HUL. Is it okay, everyone? So HUL, related parties of HUL, both of them, HUL Employees Welfare Trust will be the related parties, Okay. Alternatively, if the reporting entity is itself such a plan. So now suppose you are preparing HUL Employees Welfare Trust financial statements. This is the company whose financial statements you are preparing. So HUL or related party of HUL, when they contribute, these parties are known as sponsors. These parties are known as sponsors of the trust. Why sponsors? Because they give money to HUL trust in order to invest, run the day-to-day operations, etc. And therefore, HUL or related parties who are the sponsors, they become the related parties of the HUL Employees Welfare Trust. And we are preparing the financial statements of the trust. So in the second case, the trust is my reporting entity. In the first case, the companies were my reporting entities. The trust would be related party. In the second case, trust is the reporting entity. Sponsors are the related party. Okay, so that is 6E for you. Okay. Sheena Jain, sir, what do we need to do in respect of every chapter in Ind AS? Do we need to do module questions, RTP? Will that be enough? See, as far as problem solving is concerned, I think the study module, illustrations, test your knowledge, RTP and mock test papers, these 4 and past exam papers. If you look at all these things, you will get a fair idea of how the questions can be expected in the examinations. Itna matlab it's quite exhaustive. Okay. Whether we do it or you try it out by yourselves, this should be fairly comprehensive to study and score very good marks. I'm not saying just to pass, I'm saying scoring very good marks. But somewhere down the line, what happens is students get so much so much focused on problem solving that they forget to understand the concepts of the Ind AS. Lagatar we are doing sums and a little twist in the question and we are not able to attempt it. Why? Because our concepts about the Ind AS are not that strong. So it is my personal suggestion that read the theory that is there. Okay. Read the theory that is there. Try to understand it. Okay. And problems are there to supplement your understanding. The paper comes highly problem oriented. Okay. Out of 120 marks, that includes your optional question, out of 120 shayad, you should be expecting at least 105 to 110 marks of problems. But problems will have a conceptual understanding of your subject matter. And therefore, please focus on the theory also. Even in exams, when you solve the questions, please write the theory that relates to that question. That will be of much, that will be a very positive factor in the examiner knowing that you have understood the standard very well. Okay. So this is 6E. We have discussed 6E. Now we move on to 6F. Okay. And all right. 6F. 6F and 6G I'll do together. Okay, page 11.7. Okay. All right. Suppose I have Mr. A. It is nothing but an extension of this summary chart. Only thing is I am replacing the word parent by Mr. X or Mr. A. That's it. Okay. So suppose Mr. A controls or jointly controls A Limited at the same time, what are the words used? Controlled or jointly controlled by a person identified in 3 above. There is another entity B Limited which is controlled or jointly controlled by Mr. A. And we are preparing the financial statements of A Limited. So the question is, are these two parties related? So the story is exactly the same like this. There is a parent, subsidiary, or subsidiary joint venture, or joint venture subsidiary. Exactly the same. So what will be your answer? Your answer will be yes, they will be related parties. Okay. So when the entity is controlled or jointly controlled by a person identified in 3 above. 3 above matlab kaun hai? A person or even a close member of that person's family. Okay. So it could be possible that now I just modify this. And I say that it could be either Mr. A or Mrs. A who controls or jointly controls B Limited. And what is the relationship between this? It could be either the same person, that is self, or it could be a close family member. So now understand, Mr. A controls or jointly controls A Limited, and either Mr. A or Mrs. A has control or joint control over B Limited, then A and B are related to each other. Treat this whole setup as one unit, as one group, as one third party. Mr. A and Mrs. A. Achha, I am talking Mrs. A, but I mean that whole list of close family members, which is son, father, mother, brother, sister, dependent, domestic partner, spouse, person's children, children of spouse, children of domestic partner, children of the person, dependent of spouse, dependent of person, dependent of domestic partner. All these included is there in Mrs. A. Okay. So don't think that it is only Mrs. A, the spouse. It could be any of the family member. So that is control or jointly controlled. Okay. Or a person identified in 3 above has significant influence over the entity or is a member of the key managerial personnel. So he could either be having a significant influence on B Limited or is a key managerial personnel Okay. So if this is the situation, then we can say that A Limited is related to B Limited or B Limited is related to A Limited. What is important is Mr. A on one leg should control. Look at this. There is a control or a joint control, which is same like what I told here also. On one side, there should be control or joint control. On the other side, there could be control, joint control, or significant influence. Similarly here, on one side, there is a control or a joint control. On the other side, it could be anything. It could be control, joint control, significant influence, or even a KMP relationship. Okay. If that is the case, then A Limited and B Limited will be related to each other. So just copy this quickly. Just copy this quickly. Copy this quickly. Are you able to follow and relate? Are you able to follow and relate, guys? Yes. Once you have copied, just share your acceptance and or confirmation, and later on I shall proceed further. बाकी आपको समझ में आ रहा है? शीना जैन, जय श्रीवास्तव, महेंद्र, तनुश्री, प्रिया गर्ग, श्रीनिधि, साईराम, yes sir. 6F 6G summary is what is there in this chart. If Mr. A controls or jointly controls one company and simultaneously Mr. A or any of his close family member controls or jointly controls or significantly influences or is a KMP of another company, then both the entities are related to each other. So in simple words, if a person controls or jointly controls an entity and the same person or his or her close family member controls or jointly controls or significantly influences or has a KMP relationship with another entity, in our example, this is B Limited. In our example, this was A Limited. Then the two entities into bracket A Limited and B Limited in our example are related to each other. Okay. So this is the summary. If a person controls or jointly controls an entity. So Mr. A exercising control over A Limited or joint control over A Limited, and the same person, that is Mr. A or his or her close family member, jointly controls. They jointly control or significantly influence or have a KMP relationship with B Limited. Then the two entities A and B Limited are related to each other. So this is your 6F and 6G. This is your 6F and 6G together. Okay, I have taken both of them in one. So this is exactly the chart. This is the chart for 6F and 6G. Is it okay now? Yes, Sairam, समझ में आ गया? Did you follow now? If you have written this summary, let me know. Okay. In given example, if Mr. X, where is Mr. X? There is no Mr. X here. I am not sure what are you saying, Kumar Mangalam. Mr. X gives a loan to Mr. B, then can it be related party for A Limited? So you are saying Mr. X gives a loan to Mrs. B. So can Mr. X be a related party for A Limited? कैसे होगा? Whatever relationship, who is Mr. X in this case? He is some third party. Okay, so if he is some third party, then how can it affect the finances of A Limited? It cannot affect, right? Not sure. Yes, Sairam, have you noted this down? Have you noted this down? And are you able to follow? Srinidhi has confirmed. Jay has confirmed. Mahinder समझ में आ गया. Priya Garg. ठीक है, fine. So that is done. So I hope you have understood also, Sairam. Yes, I hope you have understood. So 6G is done, F is done. We then move on to 6H. H. Page 11.8. Now see, many times what happens, there are companies who are unable to independently hire a CFO, CEO, Chief Operations Officer, Procurement Manager, Production Manager, etc., HR Manager, so on and so forth. So what these companies do is they outsource key functions. Outsource key functions. Key functions like what? Finance and reporting, they can outsource. Okay, they would outsource HR management. Okay, human resource management. These key functions could be outsourced. To whom will it be outsourced? To another corporate entity. To another corporate entity. Now, who is this corporate entity? This corporate entity, we call it as the entity providing KMP services. The entity providing KMP services. What do you mean by KMP services? Services which are integral to the activities of the entity. Services which are integral to the activities of the company. Who is a key management personnel? The persons who are having authority and responsibility for planning, directing and controlling activities of the entity. You can have a look here. KMP is those persons having authority and responsibilities for planning, directing and controlling activities of the entity. So this could be done either by individuals or I outsource it. For example, if I outsource my HR functions, all I have to do is I have to give the pay scale and the attendance to the outsourced team. The outsourced team will calculate based on the pay rate that you have given, based on the leaves that you have given. It will calculate salary payable, PF deductible, ESI deductible. All these things will be calculated and it will be presented to the company at the end, end of the next month or beginning of the next month. Okay. So salary will be paid and before the due dates, PF, ESI and all other welfare contributions also would be done. Are these activities integral to the operations of the entity? Yes. Salary nahi denge to kaun kaam karega? Who will work? Right? So therefore, these persons, these services are towards directing and controlling the activities of the entity. Supply chain management ki baat karo. If you take supply chain management, then what do you mean by supply chain management? Receiving the goods, okay, storing them, issuing them for production, all these kind of activities will come in your supply chain management. Okay. Production management services. Are the materials in stock? Should the order be placed? Issued to production? Check for the issues that are happening. All these things you will have to check as a production manager. Is it affecting my activities? Yes, directly or indirectly. Then such entity is known to be providing KMP services. Is known to be providing KMP services. Why they outsource it? Because probably they don't have the ability to retain, okay, they don't have the resources to retain a CFO, CEO, etc., on a permanent basis. So therefore, they think that better to outsource it. Okay, better to outsource it. And the outsourced company, the outsourced entity ke liye bhi acha hai. It's getting a retainership. It's not needing a job. It can go twice, thrice a week to monitor the activities, and that should kind of take care of the activities of the company. So these are known as KMP services. These are known as KMP services. So now when I talk of KMP services, look at what the clause has to say. Now please pay attention. Okay. A Limited. Okay. So KMP services. Just a minute. Okay. Suppose A Limited provides KMP services to B Limited. Provides KMP services to B Limited. You are preparing the financial statements of B Limited. You are preparing the financial statements of B Limited. So are you related? Answer is obviously yes. Why? Because all analysis, reports, etc. will be prepared by A Limited for B Limited, and therefore there is a degree of a relationship. So they become related parties. Read this now. The entity provides key management personnel services to the reporting entity. So A Limited provides KMP services to the reporting entity. Number one. Second, or any member of a group. Any member of a group. Okay. So now A Limited has a subsidiary SA Limited. A Limited has a subsidiary SA Limited. SA Limited provides KMP services to B Limited. Provides KMP services to B Limited. Provides KMP services to B Limited. Now, are B and SA Limited related parties? Definitely. They are definitely related parties. But look at the wordings of the standard. Look at the wordings of the standard. Okay. An entity is related to a reporting entity if the entity or any member of a group provides personnel service, KMP services to the reporting entity. So any member of the group. So who is the group now? Well, A and SA Limited, they become one group. So a member of the group is providing KMP services, and therefore will A Limited be related to B Limited? Will A Limited be related to B Limited? Answer is yes. Related party. Answer is related party, because KMP service is provided by any member of the group. It's not only the entity. The entity or any member of the group provides KMP services, then that entity is definitely going to be the reporting entity along with the entity that provides the services. So in this case, SA Limited provides the services. A Limited is the entity that is a member of the group. A Limited will also be the related party for B Limited. Will also be the related party for B Limited. Next case. Okay. A Limited, SA Limited. And on the other side, we have B Limited and C Limited. We have B Limited and C Limited. These are one group. This is one group. Now, A Limited provides services to B Limited. Okay. So, KMP services, it provides to B Limited. And therefore, this is a related party. Absolutely. It is providing KMP services. A member of the group is providing KMP services. So the subsidiary also will be related. So this is also a related party of B Limited. This is also a related party of B Limited. But now the important thing is it could be providing personnel services to the reporting entity or to the parent of the reporting entity. So suppose the reporting entity is now C Limited. The reporting entity is now C Limited. Let us now modify this. KMP services are provided here. KMP services are provided here. Okay. So here, this is a related party, no doubt. At the same time, what does it say? If C is the reporting entity, then A Limited will be a related party of C, and SA Limited also will be a related party of C Limited. ये तो आपस में A and B, SA and B will be related, no doubt about that. But right now we are looking from the perspective of C Limited being the reporting entity. So A and SA, A or SA provide KMP services to the parent of C Limited. Look at the wordings. Provided KMP services either to the reporting entity or the parent of the reporting entity. So parent ke liye we are giving the services. So therefore A and SA will become related to C Limited. Acha, but now let me again modify the facts. A Limited, SA Limited. You have here B Limited and C Limited. You have B Limited and C Limited. A Limited provides KMP services here. A Limited provides KMP services here. And B Limited is the reporting entity. B Limited is the reporting entity. So now the question is A Limited a related party of B Limited? And now you answer this. KMP services are provided to C Limited. B Limited is the reporting entity. So is A Limited related to B Limited? Is A Limited related to B Limited? KMP services are provided to the subsidiary of B Limited. Yes. Not related. Priya Garg is saying not related, which is absolutely right. Not a related party. The words used is KMP services provided by an entity to either the reporting entity or parent of the reporting entity. It is not saying to reporting entity or subsidiaries of the reporting entity. Okay. And therefore, when services are provided to subsidiaries, you cannot say that the parent will be a related party. You cannot say that. Okay. So that is your, what you can say, charts on 6. What is it? 6H. Okay. So A to B, when it provides, obviously A and B will be related to each other. Okay. No doubt about that. Next one, A and SA. SA provides. So a member of the entity provides KMP services to the reporting entity. Then both will be regarded as related parties of B Limited. KMP services provided to the parent of the reporting entity, then the entities providing the KMP services will be related to the reporting entity. Okay. If KMP service is provided to the subsidiary of the reporting entity, then there won't be any relationship between the entity providing the KMP services and the parent entity. Okay. So that should clarify it for you. Yes. All right. I think that kind of takes care of H also. And this completes Very good. This completes our analysis of related party relationships. I had budgeted about 2.5 hours. I overshot by half an hour. But by and large, this takes care of the things. Now, who are not related parties? Who are not related parties? Acha. You remember we had done Mr. A Limited, Mr. A, Mrs. A, close family member. Okay, self or close family member, B Limited. Okay. Now, if Mr. A has a significant influence or is a KMP of A Limited, at the same time, Mr. A or close family member has only a significant influence or a key managerial personnel services to be limited, then are A and B related? Answer is no, not related party. Just because KMP is common, you cannot have a relationship. You cannot have a relationship. Okay. So Mr. A has significant influence or is a KMP of A Limited. At the same time, Mr. A or a close family member has significant influence or KMP services are being provided by that close family member to be limited, then at that point of time, you cannot say that A and B are related to each other. A and B are related to each other if and only if at least one leg of the transaction should be controlled or jointly controlled. In this case, there is no jointly controlled scenario. It's only significant influence or KMP, and therefore, in this case, they are not related parties. They are not related parties. Okay. So that takes care of first point. So simply because they have a common director or other member of KMP in common, you cannot say that the entities are related to each other. You cannot say that the entity has what you can say. You cannot say that the entities have a relationship with each other. That is the first point. Next point is, these are things which you already know, but still, co-associates are not related parties. Co-associates are not related parties. So who are co-associates? For example, P, A1, A2. Are these two related? Answer is no. Answer is no. We have also done this in the summary chart. Yes, A1 and A2 belonging to the same parent are, yes. Where did it go? Yeah. They are not related to each other. So co-associates are not related parties. Here also we have seen that. Both the sides, it is significant influence. So co-associates are not a related party. Next one is who else? Co-venturers. Tata, Singapore Airlines join hands for Vistara. So Tata is related to Vistara, SIA is related to Vistara, but are Tata and Singapore Airlines related to each other? Are Tata and Singapore Airlines related to each other? Answer is no. Not a related party. Not a related party. Okay. All right. Yes or no? How can you call Tata and Singapore as related party? Tata will not tell Singapore Airlines how to run its activities. Neither will Singapore Airlines tell Tata how to run its activities. So there is no relationship. They only agree to join hands for running Vistara, for which they agree with each other unanimously. So therefore, co-venturers के case में there won't be any related party relationship. There won't be any related party relationship. Are, have you understood? Have you understood? Bolo, bolo. I'm waiting for your answers. Have you followed? Response though. Are you able to understand? Or have you signed out? जितने भी थे सब. Yes. What I will do, I will share this sheet with you also. Okay? Don't worry. Sir, there are joint controllers of Vistara, then why are they not related party? See, when you are a related party, you should influence each other's operations. How on earth can you say that Tata influences Singapore and Singapore Airlines influences Tata? You cannot say that. Tata Singapore chodo. Ernst and Young has more than 200 partners. More than 200 partners. Do you think the partners are related to each other? Do you think the partners are related to each other? Forget Ernst and Young. If you are working in a small size CA firm with 2 partners, 5 partners, 10 partners, do you think the partners are related to each other? No, they are not. They have come and joined hands to do business. That's it. Outside their offices, they are probably total strangers. They don't even have anything to do with each other. They don't even have anything to do with each other. And therefore, they are not related. So partners are not related. Co-venturers are not related. Co-venturers are not related. Okay. So that is why they are not. The standard says co-venturers are not related parties. The standard does not say co-joint venturers are not related parties. So therefore, we had a question where J1 and J2 are joint ventures of the same parent, So will J1 and J2 be related to each other? Definitely. Because J1 and J2 will then become co-joint venturers. Okay. You have a parent with J1 and J2 as 2 joint ventures. These 2 are definitely related to each other. These 2 are related to each other because these are co-joint ventures. These are co-joint ventures. Same joint ventures, same control. And that is why they are related to each other. But in this case, venture to ek hi hai. There is just one venture, right? And there are 2 co-venturers. So therefore, there is no relationship between the co-venturers. But yes, is Tata related to Vistara? 100%, no doubt. Is Singapore Airlines related to Vistara? 100%, no doubt. But is Tata related to Singapore Airlines? It's not. It is not related. Okay. It is not related. Vistara has 2 ventures. Then they are related. I didn't understand. Vistara has 2. So you are saying further 2 joint ventures. Then yes. Because Vistara is there. So the same parent company is there. So then that point of time, J1, J2 will be related to each other. Okay. All right. Okay. 2 venturers are not related because they share joint control over a joint venture. Simply because they share joint control over a joint venture. Okay. They are not related to each other. Co-venturers. In this case, Tata, Singapore Airlines are co-venturers. P, J1, J2. In this case, J1, J2 are co-joint ventures. Co-joint ventures. Two people join hands for a joint venture. They are co-venturers. One person is having two jointly controlled businesses. Those businesses become co-joint ventures. Those businesses become co-joint ventures. Okay. Yes. जय समझ में आ गया? Are you able to follow? Are you able to follow, everyone? Anybody has any doubts so far? Anybody has any doubts so far? So co-associates nahi hoga, entities with common directors are not related, co-venturers are not related. Then there are three other non-related parties. All clear. Okay. So next one, providers of finance. Banks will not be a related party. Trade unions will not be a related party. Public utilities like water, electricity, etc. will not be a related party. And departments and agencies of a government that do not control, jointly control, or significantly influence the reporting entity are not related parties simply by virtue of their normal dealings. Okay. Even if it may affect the freedom of action of an entity or participate in its decision-making process. What does it mean? You have taken a loan. The loan taken from a bank is greater than your, is almost equal to your net worth. Okay. That means the bank's position is slightly difficult. Okay. And therefore, what the bank does is, it will say, we will appoint a nominee director on your business, on your board of directors. The nominee director will only ensure that the bank's interest is protected. If they are selling a pristine asset, the nominee director will say the proceeds must first be used for clearing the loan. So only for protecting the bank's interest, you are having a nominee director. This nominee director, you cannot say is a related party of the company. Why? Because his function is not to direct the activities of the entity. His function is to protect the interest of the bank. And therefore, though the proceeds on sale cannot be applied freely, you cannot say that the nominee director is a related party, the bank is a related party. You cannot say that. You cannot say that. Okay. So therefore, nominee directors, providers of finance, you cannot call them as related parties. You cannot call them as related parties. Next one, customer, supplier, franchisor, etc., with whom there is a significant volume of business. For suppose you are purchasing goods from one supplier and the purchases you are making is equal to 90% of the total purchases during the year. Now, when that is the case, can you say that the supplier is a related party? No, you cannot. आप नहीं बोल सकते उसको कि वो आपका, you cannot say that he is your related party. Okay. So that would be a wrong interpretation. So with whom you have major dealings, those customers, distributors, suppliers, etc. should be cannot be treated as related parties. Cannot be treated as related parties. Okay. Trade unions, vagera, you cannot take it as related parties. You cannot take it as related parties. Okay. So we have very comprehensively discussed the first part. That is who are related parties. Related parties with reference to persons with reference to reporting entities. Persons के केस में it includes persons as well as close family members. Reporting entities के केस में we saw all the 6 to 7 clauses. Okay, so that kind of concludes our discussion on who are the related parties. The next one is what to disclose. What to disclose? 2 words: disclose everything. Disclose everything. आप जो कुछ भी करते हो, whatever you do, you disclose everything. So the disclosures in a related party transaction report can be classified as under. Disclosures can be classified as: first one, I will disclose the name and relationship. I will disclose name and relationships. And the second one is disclosure of transactions. Disclosure of transactions. So name and relationship disclosures can be further classified into 2 parts. First part is mandatory disclosures. Even if no transactions exist. So mandatory disclosures, even if no transactions exist, this will be given in the case of parent and subsidiaries. This will be given in the case of parent and subsidiaries. Okay, this will be given in the case of parent and subsidiaries. All right. Next one is mandatory only if transactions entered into. So these includes details of your KMP, joint venture, associate, etc. Close family members, all these things. Why this was given? Why this mandatory only if transactions entered into? Why did we have this kind of a nomenclature? See, close family members of directors, etc. कितने सारे होंगे? There will be such a huge number. You cannot keep on writing the whole list again and again. So उनके साथ transaction हुआ, you will just take the transaction value and close it. You will just take the उनके साथ transaction. If they don't have a transaction, उनका नाम क्यों बताना? Don't give the name at that point of time. Okay. Only when there is a transaction, you will have to specify. Okay. Mandatory disclosures, even if no transactions exist, you will have to disclose the relationship with all your subsidiaries. The name and a relationship. Okay. The name and a relationship, that is, who are your subsidiaries? What are the names of each of them? ये सब detail आपको देना पड़ेगा. You will have to give all these details. Okay. Next one. Transactions के case में what are you going to disclose? Transactions के case में all financial statement items like incomes, expenses, assets, liabilities, all financial statement items, plus you will also disclose non-financial statement items. Example, contingent liabilities. So you will be disclosing all financial statement items, all non-financial statement items, as well as the last part you will disclose is outstanding balances. When goods are sold between parent and subsidiary, what is the outstanding receivable balance or outstanding payable balance? So these 3 things are what you are going to disclose. All financial statement items, non-financial statement items, including contingent liabilities, as well as any outstanding balances. Plus. In the case of KMP, key managerial personnel, you will give the disclosure of benefits as per Ind AS 19. as per Ind AS 90. Benefits as per Ind AS 90. मतलब short term benefit कितना है, long term कितना है, how much is defined benefit plan, all these things you will have to give it. Okay, like what all it includes: short term employee benefits, post-employment benefits, other long-term employee benefits, termination benefits, and share-based payments. All these details you will have to disclose. For whom? You will have to disclose for a you have to disclose it for a KMP. You will have to disclose it for a key managerial personnel. Okay, so these are your disclosures. These are your disclosures. Just take a note of this, please. Take a note of these disclosures, please. So parent and subsidiaries के case में there is one disclosure that is of importance to you. Parent entity. If you are a parent entity, you will disclose something known as A, immediate parent, B, ultimate parent, and C, next most senior parent. If applicable. Next most senior parent, if applicable, in notes. So these are your disclosures. Just copy this. Who is my next most senior parent? I will explain that after you write this down. Are you able to follow? Are you able to connect with the topic? अरे feedback दे दो. अपना opinion देना, please. Give your honest opinion. Yes, sir. Priya Garg has said noted and it is clear. Okay, so others, it's anyways available. You can pause and watch it. Okay, now there is a new concept of next most senior parent. Next most senior parent. What is the meaning of next most senior parent? Okay, this will apply applicable if, first one, ultimate parent and immediate parent do not prepare consolidated financial statements for public use. They prepare it for compliance, but they do not prepare it for public use. They do not prepare it for public use. Okay. And second, at least one entity is a listed entity. That is, prepares consolidated financial statements for public use. Okay. So it is applicable if this is the condition. Okay. So let us understand. I have a parent P which has subsidiary S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. Okay. P is a private company. Much like how Tata Sons is. S1 is a listed company. S2 is a listed company. S3 is private company. S4 is a private company. Okay, so these are your nomenclatures, and you are preparing the financial statements of S5. You are preparing the financial statements of S5. Now, who is the ultimate parent? Ultimate parent is equal to P. Who is the immediate parent? Who is the immediate parent? Well, immediate parent is S4. So ये रहा मेरा ultimate parent. This is immediate parent. And who is my next most senior parent? Next most senior parent is, in the hierarchy, who is the first entity that is required to prepare financial statements? Well, that is S2. S5 के ऊपर S4 है, but S4 is private. S3 also is private, and therefore S2 will क्या कहेंगे उसको? S2 will be my next most senior parent. Next most senior parent. Okay. Next most senior parent. Parent that prepares CFS for public use. Parent that prepares CFS for public use. You cannot take S1 because the word used is next most senior parent. If S3 had to be listed, then S3 itself would be the next most senior parent. Would be the next most senior parent. So senior parent के लिए what you obviously need? Parent should be unlisted and the reporting entity is there. Okay, so parent should be unlisted and immediate parent also should be unlisted. Then at least one entity is a listed entity. Okay, So it prepares consolidated financial statements for public use. So between P and S4, there must be at least one listed entity. There must be at least one listed entity. That listed entity will become your next most senior parent. अगर कोई भी entity नहीं है, if there is no entity which is listed, then this clause itself will not be applicable. Then this clause itself will not be applicable. Okay, this clause itself will not be applicable. Is it done? Yes, is it done? Have you understood next most senior parent? Have you understood next most senior parent? Please answer. Next most senior parent, have we understood? Bolo. Jay Srivastav, Sai Ram, Mahinder, Sheena Jain, Tanushri, Priya Garg. अपने को समझ में आ गया? श्रीनिधि, right? Have we understood the concept of next most senior parent? Sir, what about S3? S3 रहेगा, but S3 is not next most senior parent. It is just a parent company. Because we are preparing the balance sheet of S5. We are preparing balance sheet of S5. So S5 के perspective से देखो. From S5's perspective, the next most senior parent is who? The entity that prepares listed financial statements, which is S2. And therefore, S2 will be stated as the next most senior parent. Okay. Whereas if S3 were to be listed, then next most senior parent would go to S3. Next most senior parent would go through S3 if S3 were to be listed. Suppose you are preparing S3's financials. S3 is the reporting entity. Then immediate parent will be S3. Immediate parent will be S2. Ultimate parent will be P. And even the next most senior parent would be S2. है ना Sheena Jain? Tata Sons is there, the biggest example, right? All your TCS, IHCL, all these companies are subsidiaries of whom? Tata Sons Trust or Tata Sons Private Limited. Tata Sons Private Limited is one of the wealthiest companies. Why? Because it has all the subsidiaries which are listed. TCS देखो, IHCL देखो, you take Tata Steel, Tata Motor, Tata Power, all these are listed companies. Okay. But who is the parent? Parent is an unlisted company. They do not want to disclose the data to the public probably. Okay. Because it is a closely held Parsi family, that is Parsi people who are managing that. Okay. So they want to keep it like that. Fair enough. As long as they are doing a good job, which they definitely are, we don't have a problem. All the disclosures flow in for the subsidiaries. Yes or no? Why there is a concept of next most senior parent? See, if S5, the reporting entity is unlisted, S4 is unlisted, S3 is unlisted, then the disclosures that need to be made for transactions between the parties will not be available to the public. See, if you are S5, You will not be able to see S4's financial statements. If you are a reader of S5's financial statements, you will not see S4's financials. Why? Because it is private. You cannot view S3 because it is private. But you can view S2's financials. And in S2's financials, you will clearly have an idea of whatever transactions are entered into between S2 and S5. All these transactions will be disclosed in detail, And that is why the concept of next most senior parent is there. Just to understand that whether the transactions are disclosed in a proper manner. Okay. Public, in the case of publicly listed companies, okay. So there may be what you can say upstream transactions between S5 and S2. There may be downstream transactions between S2 and S5. If that is the case, what is the profit markup? How much is reversed? How much is attributed? All these data will be available from S2's financial statements. And that is why we have to give the disclosure of the next most senior parent. Okay. So therefore, Sairam Gali, if it means whose financial statements are used for public, that company's financials are called as next most. Matlab, niche se dekho, you look from down. S5 is your reporting entity. Is S4 listed? No, but it is immediate parent. So upar bado. Is S3 private? No. Upar bado. Go up. Is S2 listed? Yes. So that is the first company from bottom to top whose financials are made available for public use. Why? Because S2 is listed. If I was preparing S3's financials, S3 is the reporting entity, then immediate parent is S2 and even the next most senior parent would be S2. Okay. Next most senior is equal to immediate parent. In the case, S3 is preparing the, the reporting entity is S3. If S3 is the reporting entity. Okay. All right. तो ये हो गया मेरा S3. If I am preparing financials of S1, ultimate parent is P. What you can say, immediate parent also is P, and there won't be any next most senior parent. Because it's only private above S1. Okay. So that takes care of S1. Okay. And then finally, exemption. एक ही exemption है. There is only one exemption. We'll read that exemption. You should be able to understand it. Okay. ये all disclosures which are to be made. Okay. Just go through that. All disclosures, whatever I have discussed, are mentioned here. Okay. Exemptions is only to government related entities. So what is the exemption given? Exempt from disclosure requirements in relation to related party transactions, outstanding balances and commitments. So disclosures mein what all were there? Related party transactions, outstanding balances and commitments. So basically all the transaction data jo kuch bhi tha, whatever transactions you had to disclose, that is exempted. In what case? If it is a government entity that has control, joint control or significant influence over the reporting entity and another entity that is a related party because the same government has control, joint control or significant influence. So suppose we have the story like this. There is government. It's almost done, Sheena. It's almost done. Just the last part. Okay. Government controls entity 1. And government controls entity 2. Okay. Now, the question is, technically speaking, entity 1 and entity 2 are related to each other. Why? Because they are controlled by the same parent. They are controlled by the same parent. But there is an exemption which is given here, where the government, if it has control or joint control or significant influence on one entity, and the same government. So if you're talking about state government, central government, control, joint control or significant influence over the second entity, the same government, then entity 1 and entity 2 are able to enjoy the exemption. They are able to enjoy the exemption. Now, why are they able to enjoy the exemption? Because of the exemption that is given to you. What exemption they can enjoy? They need not disclose the transactions, need not disclose the balances, need not disclose the commitments. कुछ भी disclose मत करो. But what you have to disclose is, you will disclose who is the government that is controlling. You will disclose what is the nature of the relationship. Is it control, joint control or significant influence? And to enable the users the following to understand the related party, you can disclose the following information: nature and amount of each significant transaction. For other transactions not significant, either a qualitative or quantitative. ये तो कोई follow नहीं करेगा, because they will say the transactions are not significant. Okay. But if you can, it will promote transparency. It will promote transparency. Okay. So government entity 1, entity 2 will not be related, will be able to enjoy the exemption. I move even one step further. Government entity 1, entity 2, A, B, C, D. Okay. So therefore, all these parties, that is entity 1, 2, A, B, C, D. All these parties are able to enjoy the exemption. Why? Because they are controlled, jointly controlled or significantly influenced by the same government. They are controlled, jointly controlled or significantly influenced by the same government. Okay. And that is why transactions between them, balances, etc., you can avoid the disclosure. You can avoid the disclosure. Okay. So that is the conclusion of this standard. Okay. It concludes all that I had to discuss. Now, what I want from you is all the questions which are there. They are all fairly simple. Okay. I have spent a lot of time on explaining the concepts, because I wanted you to understand how do I identify the relationships. Now, each and every one of these problems, if you draw the charts like how we have drawn, you should be able to answer the questions. Just one point. Related parties will be disclosed even if the relationship is there for only part-time during the year. So for 6 months or 9 months only there was a relationship. Then also you will have to disclose the related party transactions. Okay. For the period when the entities were related to each other. For the period when the entities were related to each other. So basis that, don't think that I am skipping the problems. I have covered exhaustively. Literally exhaustively, whatever is there in Ind AS 24. I have spent a lot of time because I want you now to be able to comfortably attempt these questions, and you will be comfortably able to attempt these questions. तो आप लोगों को कोई दिक्कत नहीं आएगी, because you can revisit the lecture again and again. The lecture is sufficient to guide you to solve these problems. सारे के सारे theory problems है. आप प्लीज ट्राई कीजिए, ट्राई इट आउट. इन माई ओपिनियन, you should be able to get all the answers. Matlab usme there is no ambiguity. Okay. There is no ambiguity. So you should be able to get all the answers. I have not skipped. I have gone a little bit slow because I wanted you to understand. We have done lot of cases where I made you to answer the queries. That should itself tell you that we have done quite exhaustively. What we have done, simpler than that, cases are there in the practical problems. हमने जो charts बनाए थे, more simple than that are the charts which are there in the questions. So I would advise you to please go through the questions. One thing is they will always give statements like this. Feels that there is no requirement as the transaction is carried out on normal commercial terms, totally insignificant to the company. So when these statements are there, all of you will obviously feel that transaction is not material. It is less than 1% of purchases. Materiality, though we do it in audit, and it is carried out at normal commercial terms. So there is nothing to hide. It's a normal transparent transactions. Why do I need to disclose related party transactions? And you will be tempted to answer by saying that no need of any disclosure. Related party transactions, if you have done your audit paper, you will know that related party transactions are material by nature. They are material by nature. Even if the transaction is worth 1 rupee, even Reliance ke books mein, suppose it is a multi-million dollar company. Okay. But even if there is a 1 rupee transaction between related parties, it has to be disclosed. Materiality does not have any place in related party transactions. Itna yaad rakho, you will be fairly confident in attempting the questions. All related party transactions are material by nature, and hence disclosure is mandatory regardless of materiality. 1 रुपए का हो, even 1 paisa, you have to disclose. Okay. So with that, I conclude my session today. I think you should be in a position to attempt. Please attempt the questions. I think I have already shared my contact numbers with you. In case you have any difficulty, please feel free to approach for the doubts that you have, or you can obviously mail it at fr-final@icai.in. Okay. Koi bhi doubts ho, please feel free to approach. You can write to the institute. Give your feedback. It will be of help to me also, and ultimately it will be of help to you also. Okay. I do not know when I'll be seeing you next, or even if I'll be seeing you or not. Okay. So if we meet, well and good. If we do not meet, all the very best for your examinations and for your careers. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So that's it. Nisarg.